Hi everyone, it's Brooke. Welcome back to my channel. This is a place where Christian singles can seek God, seek fellowship, and grow together. So if you're new, welcome. And if you're not, well then welcome back. Today I wanted to talk about the biggest red flag that I noticed in my last relationship, but that I ignored in my last relationship. At this point, and hopefully with sharing this will encourage you to notice the feelings as a sign from the Holy Spirit and to not ignore it, to either have a deep conversation, which I had, but if nothing changes, if it's something that's really a red flag, I think there's a difference between a beige flag and a red flag, but if it's a red flag, my friend, run for the hills. And this one I thought was a beige flag, but looking back, it was a red flag, and I should have just right then and there been like, you know what, I need to see a change, otherwise I'm gonna leave. And it ended up kind of biting me in the butt in the future. But this was probably about a month and a half into our dating relationship, and my ex at the time was hardcore pumping me up with how beautiful I was, how he won the lottery, all these things, right? Which I really appreciated. I'm a words of affirmation lover. I love a good affirmation. You know what I'm saying? So for me, it felt good to have him say these things, but that specific conversation made it seem like he was just with me for the looks. And so I did kind of like, honestly, like a weird what if scenario, but it ended up showing me a lot in the end. I asked him, if I were to get into a car accident, heaven forbid, bind Satan in Jesus' name. If I were to get into a car accident and my face were to get deformed and my nose would like fall off, what would you do? And I remember this is literally how he responded. He said, well, I'm not heartless, so I wouldn't drop you right away, but within the week I would. And I remember thinking and saying to him, well, thank you for being honest. That really makes me feel like I'm not safe in the relationship. It makes it feel like you're only with me for my looks. And it makes me feel like I have to protect my heart now, because if something were to ever happen to me, you would just drop me. And I remember him telling me, Brooke, I really ask that you don't close up your heart. I could have lied to you. I could have told you, that I would stay with you, but I wanted to be honest. He said, if we were to have been married and if we were to get married and this were to happen to you, well, then of course I wouldn't drop you. But I get the choice to decide who I want for a wife, and I don't want a wife with a deformed face. He said, maybe if we were engaged, I would continue, but even then I would probably leave. He said, but right now I definitely would leave. And that made me feel really bad. I immediately went and talked to my mom about it, who's a good, godly Christian woman, right? And she had told me, Brooke, that's kind of a red flag, but keep an eye on it. Pray about it. It probably will never happen. We bind Satan, it won't, But that's not the best thing he could have said. But if that's the only thing that's like, and at the time, like, that was the only thing that had like given me an alert at that point, right? So she's like, just keep an eye on it and continue. Well, when we started having not major problems, but when we were close to breaking up and we just realized we weren't the ones for each other, I remember I had talked to one of my pastors, and she had told me, I said, hey, he and I are about to break up. We just asked for prayer and for guidance from the Lord. And she called me immediately, God bless her soul, and she asked me, she's like, what's going on? And so I told her a little bit about the red flags. I told her about that story, and I remember her telling me, oh my goodness, Brooke, she's like, if I would, like, that's all you need. That's what she said. That's all you needed to know. Like, I would have dropped him right then and there. And I was like, really? She's like, yeah. And then I remember I told two of my friends. My one best friend was like, oh no, that's horrible. That's not good. He's on my list. Like, you really got to pray about this. I'm going to be praying for his heart and just like go into it with more caution. And then my one other friend who's married said, she goes, oh my goodness, if my husband ever said that to me, I would cry. I can't ever picture him ever having said that to me. So like, I knew it was bad. Like, if you're dating someone and you're just with them for how they look, yes, attraction is part of it. But if you would drop someone because of something horrific like that, that is a sign of, in my opinion, emotional unintelligence. And oddly enough, right before we broke up, I had shown some concern. We had a trip to my home state for my ministry that next week, and so I had showed some concern and asked him if he still wanted to go with me. He said, yes, absolutely, but I don't want to go if you just break up with me when we get back. So I said, absolutely not. This is not me breaking up with you. This is me just saying that we have to work on certain things, like prayerfully consider how we move forward. He's like, okay, yeah, like let's go, let's have fun. We can test and see how we're doing. And I was like, yeah, great. We had the best week of our lives on that trip, and then the day after we got back, he broke up with me. So gotta love it. But afterward, I remembered that whole thing about the nose, and I was like, he probably planned that. He probably planned the trip knowing that I had shown concern, and he beat me to it. I don't know, but God bless his soul. He's a mighty man of the Lord, and this is not an attack on him, but this is just a sign of some people just aren't ready. And some people have gone through trauma. That doesn't mean they're a bad person. It doesn't mean that you can't work with them. But in that specific case, it was a end all be all. So hopefully this encourages you. Write down below what one of your red flags were that you ignored in your last relationship, or one of the red flags that are in your current relationship. If you want some advice, I could give my 2 cents. I'm just a random, somewhat godly girl, but I can give you my 2 cents. But yeah, just, what can I say? Just be prayerful in how you approach relationships. And I'm so glad I didn't end up marrying him, though it was a hard breakup because he was such a good guy. He treated me with such respect. Yeah, I'm glad. I'm glad. I would have been miserable. I would have been miserable. There were other things where he emotionally disconnected. So the Lord knew and he protected me. But just listen to those thoughts in your soul. Those are usually the Holy Spirit giving you a warning. So much love to you, dear sister. Much love to you, dear brother. If you have not yet subscribed, please make sure to do so. I give out shorts every day, and I come out with a video about once a week. So I really want to cultivate this Christian community for singles, and I want you to know that you have a place here. So much love to you all, and we'll talk to you in our next video. Bye.